everyone, and welcome back to another episode of AV Career Masterminds. I am excited for today's guest because it is someone that I have worked with in a previous life of mine that we've got to know each other. And now he is on the market, which we love to talk to people that are actually on the market and looking. So, Jake, welcome to the show and introduce yourself. Tell everybody who you are and what you've done.
Thanks for having me, and it's really good to see you. I just want to say that for sure. So I'm Jake Voss. I live in the Northwest Seattle area, a native. I've had quite the history. I was originally a teacher way back in the day, so my sort of upbringing is through education, if you will. But I've spent time in the corporate world with adult training and getting into technology, which led into quite a long stint of ed tech sales related work, from being the outside field rep to leading teams to sort of managing sort of the sales and marketing piece of it. And then more recently, I've found my way back to a couple school districts. So I was with Tacoma Public Schools for about 3 years, and I really was in charge of innovation. So I was looking at how do we innovate and implement new technology for students, for teachers? How do we bring professional learning to teachers? Implemented an amazing eSports program in the district. And then most recently, I was with Peninsula School District as the director of communications. So being able to take those skills of kind of understanding the needs and listening well to then create a story and tell a story for a district. On the side, I'm also executive director for Washington State Scholastic Esports Association. So we're the nonprofit esports entity for Washington, leading that team. So that's kind of where I've been, and it's a fun story for sure.
Oh, it definitely is, because I think like a lot of us at some point in our career that we're teachers, if we're not teachers, we found our way into technology, I think, for some reason, because it just comes natural to be able to talk to people, I think. So talk to me, which I love the area that you are still in tech. It sounds like you still want to be in some area of tech. Is that correct?
I do. I mean, it's definitely, my master's degree is in technology integration. And so just that's in my core being to have that, what are we thinking about with hardware, software, AI, all the things going on there. So definitely would love to still be involved in some capacity with that.
Yeah. Now, as far as looking at the esports functionality and knowledge that you have, and with the nonprofit, what are you seeing happening with the kids, and whether it doesn't matter what the age group is, whether it's esports in high school or esports at the collegiate level, what are you seeing with the kids understanding the technology that goes with now esports, not just the game and the computer, but the environment and the visual aspect of like an esports arena? Where are you seeing the kids take that?
Yeah, that's a wonderful question. And it's really, if you think about the proverbial iceberg, the esports, the competitive side, the gaming side is really the tip of the iceberg. And where there's real gold to be mined when it comes to thinking about the technology, thinking about career pathways, thinking about interest in all of that is underneath the surface. And that is related to, if you think about CTE programs with whether it's game design, production, cybersecurity, computer science, coding, all of those sort of career paths that we've spent a lot of time learning about and sort of nurturing our kids towards, at least bringing those to light in school, especially, fits so well in the esports environment. There's sometimes when I give a presentation, I have this big spider web of pathways, and the gaming piece, the actual professional gaming, like achieving that is such a small part of it. But if you think about, most other industries or any other, like a professional sports, if you will, they have anything from nutrition and business management to the technical support side of it. So there's so much more in the depth of what's available. And so when I was working in the district in Tacoma or in my role with Wasia, we are looking for partners that are anywhere from PC manufacturers to folks that do like the furniture of an esports space to the lighting and rigging, because you get into those really upgraded arenas, and you're talking about just not only the production quality of shoutcasting, which is that live stream event, to what are you doing to get the event ready and building that. So I don't know if that answers your question, but I think that, I think there's a lot of awareness to be grown in what esports is. And there's so much behind the scenes that's really the depth.
So being part of the nonprofit, it sounds like that's obviously a passion, because you're not going to be part of a nonprofit if it's not a passion for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Are you looking at your next chapter in your career to be something that is involved around esports, or is that just an option?
Yeah, well, it's very much a passion and excitement, and the passion comes from just this refresh. When we were in interactive boards way back in the day, there was such an excitement and curiosity around what are these things, and it was really fun to go talk to people about it because they were in a mode of learning and growing, and they had a lot of curiosity. And that's where esports is at in a lot of ways. And so when we think about the benefits that it provides to the students, especially, 60+% of the kids that participate in esports are not involved in their school in any other way. So we're tapping into a group of kids that have normally not really had an identity with their community. And so the passion around that and nonprofit work, of course, I would love to explore that further in any of those niches. This idea of being a consultant, helping to coach people on what does it mean to start a program, to building a program, to enhancing an existing program. Whether it's talking to district administrators, or talking to business leaders about why maybe adding esports as part of their solutions package is important. So very much have interest in that, but I'm not limiting myself to that. I'm very much staying open to the idea that I know how to build relationships. I know how to listen and hear the needs and help them find an answer. So roles like that would be wonderful.
So now if we look at it and we say, you mentioned are kind of where we know each other from that interactive display type. So does going back to a manufacturer excite you, or would it have to be in a way where it's not just regionally based, maybe more of like a East Coast, or not so much East, you're on the West Coast, I'm on the East Coast, but a West Coast or a national type position? Is that something that at this stage in your career would excite you?
Yes, definitely. I want to have more involvement in some of the larger decisions, strategic planning, the vision. I want to take the knowledge that I have and the experience I've had and work in a broader community. So, the idea of going back to a manufacturer or a local reseller or something, and just being kind of that local guy on boots on the ground kind of thing, probably doesn't interest me. But the idea of being in a role where I get to help coach and lead a team, or I get to be part of consulting with those decision makers for a district or corporation or something like that. Having chances, I've done a lot of presenting at conferences. I love doing that. And so getting a chance to be a representative of an organization, that part would really interest me.
Now, what about the higher education community? Have you thought about some type of involvement where you can work with the higher education community in ways of helping them with their, let's just kind of go on the line of esports, but with their esports programs.
What's interesting with higher ed is that, again, in previous roles, I did work with some colleges to help design and help them build their solutions. So I have a sense of what that dynamic is. I've also been an adjunct professor for Central Washington. And in that role, so I understand also this idea of being on the side of teaching future teachers. And what does it look like? What do they need in those environments? And I think there's a lot of growth potential if we think, if we took something like an architecture path in a college, you don't go in and use a big drawing table. You're using CAD software, the tools of the industry. When I go to ed departments at a college or university, a lot of times they don't have the tools yet that those teachers are getting in the classroom. So we're not quite getting them as ready as we could, as an example in the education space. So yeah, definitely with higher ed. And then when we think about esports, I'm building a lot of relationships in my role with colleges, helping them to build their program, helping them get connected with future players and people that want to be involved in that career path. I worked with Boise State on designing helping them figure out a curriculum that allowed high school students to get college credit for an esports minor. So just those different dynamics, I would love to be involved in higher ed.
That's and anybody that listening and that follow, they know how much I love the higher ed community, right? I work so close with lots of them there, and even in my current job. The one thing I do know about and love about the higher ed community is their willingness and their openness to be able to share. So I'm sure someone out there wants to be able to do what you did with Boise State, but they just don't know how.
And I would love the opportunity to talk to them about that, right? If it's, in a consulting capacity, if it's being a part of their team, anything like that, I would very much welcome that opportunity.
Yeah, because we see that in even with me, I'm on the board of a nonprofit also, and we talk about educating the youth about the AVIT industry and what that involves, and getting them to love it. Now, as we both know, there's not a career path for AV, right? Everybody has just fallen into this industry.
Yeah.
That's our thing. But being able to take them and say, from that high school level of working with esports, now I'm going to be able to find some type of a minor. They're going to be able to take that information and transfer it, like you and I have both done, into a different area of a career, but still involve the tech.
I was thinking about one of the companies that we work with on the esports side. They're sort of like our sister company, if you will, and they're a nonprofit also, and they have this whole production team. And one of the things that we've talked about with them is, even doing something like a summer camp where the kids get to learn that behind the scenes piece, which then falls in line with what they might be doing as part of a college program, whether it's a major or minor or just an area of interest. And, when we talk to the game industry leaders and decision makers, one of the key things that they're looking for in candidates is, are they a gamer themselves? Not the quality or the how well or even what they play, but just that idea of, being a part of that community. And so, really helping our generation continue to embrace this idea that gaming isn't a bad thing, and that there's some really positive skills that come from that also translate into building that career development. And so, because I've witnessed that firsthand, because I am experiencing that, I have boys that are 22 and 15, so they're living it. The idea that they can, oh my gosh, what am I trying to say? Basically, what I can do is bring sort of that real world knowledge to help people in our generation be like, hey, here's why you should embrace this. That's another big piece of where I feel that I potentially could fill a gap, is educating a large group of folks that are in leadership roles, strategic vision roles for companies, higher ed, K-12 that aren't always aware of why. Why does this matter? Why does this consideration, especially around esports, make a difference? Why should we invest in it and not just traditional sports? Or why should CTE be engaged? Things like that.
Well, and what I find interesting is a lot of times, especially at the university level, I haven't gotten into too much into K-12 level, but especially at the university level, esports is under the athletics department, and which I find very interesting. But with that being said, at the high school level, you are absolutely right. There are kids that don't get involved at all in anything at the high school level, but they will get involved in the esports type program. And trying to figure out who at a district or at a high school or even at the middle school level is going to be able to support those students. Are you finding people there, or are you finding people that are like, I don't, like you said, I don't get it. I don't want to support it. We don't want to do it. It's just gaming.
Yeah, yeah. There's definitely a mixed bag. There is a mix. It's very grassroots right now. A lot of it is you have teachers that maybe have been gamers themselves that decided, I want to start something like this. So in that very traditional teachers have big hearts sort of way, they'll commit their own time and money to starting a program just because they want to get these kids involved, because there's a like-minded sort of spirit between those kids and those teachers that like this. I would say that we're seeing on some level, and I would say this is both, K-12 and higher ed, you'll find pockets of leadership that get it and decide, okay, I'm willing to find funding for this program and provide paid coaches, provide adequate equipment and a place for them to gather for gameplay and just being in the community. But there's also a lot that really are stuck on, how is esports a sport? And they don't quite get that yet. And so I think they're hesitant to, if they're in charge of, say, funding that goes in that realm, how and why should I be funding this? What I did in Tacoma as an example was I built a strong partnership between the IT department, the athletic department, and CTE. And what we did is we shared I got them to work with me and see how to share the resource piece of it. So CTE would often provided us the hardware and the space to meet in, because it would be after school in a CTE lab or something. Then athletics was funding the coaching fees or the coach's stipend and, say, the league fees and jerseys, kind of typical things that they would do as part of athletics. And then IT was providing all of the support to make sure that everything functioned and it was still secure in a safe environment. And so no one had any burden beyond what was probably already relevant for their space. And then I just helped them understand why, going from 4 pilot schools to 14 schools across the district and 40 kids to 240 kids, was sort of the proof in the pudding for everyone. And so that's an important story at all levels, because colleges have full on, Boise State as an example, full on program, but UW just has it as a, it's a bit more casual. It's, they have a lab and they're committed to it, but I don't know that it's at the same level of, say, someone like Boise State yet.
So do you think it's more of, and this is what I've seen at some of the universities that I've talked to, it is a student-led club that has a faculty advisor?
I would say that is, I don't know this to be true, but my speculation would be that that's the bulk percentage of what exists. If you think about probably not only esports at college level, but esports at high school level, is this club, somebody committing their time as the adult in the room, may or may not be getting a little bit of a stipend, but it's not being supported in the way that I think it could be and should be, based on the benefits that we know that it brings to not only the kids, but the school community.
Well, and that's, and again, when my son my son's also 15, and when he was younger, he said he wanted to be a gamer, right? We transitioned over things, and I'm like, no. Like, mom says, nope, you're not playing video games, and I'm in tech. Like, I said, no. But then as I got to understand and learn, there's so much that goes on. There's teamwork that goes on. There's the manager, so to speak, if we want to translate it into corporate kind of terminology. There's a manager, the lead, that's going to help drive and get everybody on the same page and together and what they're doing. And then you have all your little office workers, which are kind of the behind the scenes. So you can take it, and the skills that they're learning by being gamers and playing esports, now you get a few little snippets of, if you want to do, work in corporate America, you now have some of the skills to do this position, this position. Is that kind of what you're doing in a way, and helping everybody realize why it's not just gaming?
Yeah, that's a big part of the story and the message that through WASIA, the Esports Association, or just in the role that I've had in the district, and when I present, that's, again, when we talked about that iceberg, right? The gaming is the tip, and it's everything that's underneath the surface that really is the infrastructure. That's what is being built. That's the pathway that these kids are recognizing. I have a good friend in our organization. He's in a very small rural district up near the Canadian border, and his kids don't get much exposure to some of the bigger opportunities in life. It's a farming community, small, and he is very passionate about giving those kids every chance they can to go. We have an in-person finals in the spring, and so this is a first chance for those kids to go, oftentimes, to the big city, go to Seattle or come down to Tacoma or something. And so he's trying to expose them to the fact that there's so much more you can do, and whatever your interest is in gaming. He's got a lot of he had a couple kids working on music, video game music, and where could that lead as far as going to college or going and working for a game design company, something like that. So huge opportunity there to tap into people's passions. If you think about what we do in our life away from our jobs, a lot of us do a version of gaming in some capacity. And so understanding that, wow, I could turn this what feels like a hobby into a career, because maybe I want to get into the marketing, or maybe I want to get a sales, or maybe I want to get into more technical side of things. That's a big part of what we need to help the adults in the room understand about why this is not just Mountain Dew in the basement playing video games. That's what they think of most of the time is, it's just, kids hanging out in the basement and being alone. It's like, no, there's so many life skills that they develop that traditional sports offer, that they're getting when they're part of a team, as, communication and learning how to be good sports, learning how to manage their own sort of emotions, the highs and lows. There's also talk around nutrition and exercise. We have teams where between matches, depending on their score for a particular match, the players themselves have instituted this thing where they have to do a certain number of push-ups between matches, right? So they understand there's an importance to full health, full life sort of thing. And I love being able to share that message and help other, adults think about, where do they fit? Where can, if I'm in a role, for example, that working for a company, and how do I help our customer understand the vision and how our solution fits, or something like that.
So not that I'm trying to pigeonhole you at all into esports. I know that because I like I said, we've known each other for a really long time. We see each other at different shows and things. And, I did peruse your LinkedIn page, because I'm a big LinkedIn person anyway, and see the things with esports, and being it a passion for me also, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think there's an opportunity, and again, just my opinion, and so correct me if I'm wrong though, but I think you have an opportunity of really getting involved with not so much like the manufacturer aspect of it, but the consultant aspect. So those AV type consultant agencies that are out there that are helping the end user customer design and pitch why they need to do this. Does that sound something of interest for you?
Yeah, and I would say that I've dabbled in that a bit already. There's some AV companies that are local to my area that I've known over the years, and as I've grown in my say esports experience, they've come to me asking, you know, what is esports? How can we be involved? We already work with schools and colleges, but we haven't dabbled into this because we're not sure what is our story to tell. How do we provide, the solution or the vision? And so I've helped them with that. One of the other things that we're working on with SIA is at the local, the regional conference, EdTech conference is NCCE. And
Mm-hmm.
we are working in partnership with them to create an esports experience. And what I've done is I'm reaching out to various AV partners, or really kind of just like one, VAR, if you will, that has a catalog of solutions, and asking them to partner with me to say, bring in your manufacturer partners and let's create a whole environment, a booth space that says, here's what it could look like to create esports at your school or college. You need furniture, you need PCs, you might need peripherals, you need charging stations, maybe you need some software for coaching or for managing. And so the VAR that I work with, the resellers, is able to start to see the vision by bringing, oh, we already work with all these manufacturers. We just need them for these different pieces. So in my capacity, to kind of come back to your question of like, let me help and coach and work with those resellers to say, this manufacturer can support this aspect of it, and here's how we can provide a full solution to an interested customer.
Yeah. You got to wave the magic wand and have that dream job. What would it be?
At my core, I, building relationship and coaching and leading are, I think, the sort of my strengths, where I naturally fit and where I've always sort of flourished. And so a dream role for me is this opportunity to, um, whatever the company is, to be able to be consultative to potential customers, help them strategically find their solutions across the country, across the world. I'm not afraid to travel. I like working remote. I want to have that sort of bigger exposure. I would love if that also then gives me a chance to help coach up the or lead some of the team members, that are out there building those direct relationships. How do I help them be more strategic in building that? How do I step in and be, part of the, I want to make a strong contribution. And so, I don't know if that's too vague, but that's sort of the idea of how I feel like I have a lot of experiences in different roles that allow me to, at times be able to code switch in how I'm talking to people, being able to talk to IT, be able to help them understand, that was a powerful thing in Tacoma, was I helped them understand why they need to support and what it looks like to support these kids gaming at this time of day and the needs they have, and then help the sort of end user side understand why we have to be mindful of what IT needs from a security standpoint and whatnot.
Well, and part of the reason why I wanted you to answer that question too is the fact that you do have those different levels of being in the classroom, working in IT as a manufacturer, going back and being in that consultative way. Because what I've seen in my career is and I could get myself in trouble for this, which is fine, but the AV, your typical AVIT salesperson has solely been focused on, I need to make the sale. This is the solution, and I need to make this sale. And they can talk to that specific customer, but there's always this outlining of people that you need to be able to talk to. You have the ability to educate these surrounding people and even the individual AV salesperson on why these are all important, because that's how I've taken my role in my career. And so I think you have that same mentality of being able to morph into all the different roles that are potentially there.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. And, I think part of it is, and I would imagine you and I have the same, experience that comes with time, is this idea of, being aware that there might be other stakeholders, other decision makers, that the internal group that you're initially talking to may not even know that they need to include. So helping them ask, questions that they hadn't asked themselves, helping them consider who else needs to be at least brought to the table to at the beginning, rather than being in a reactive state. Let's make sure we've checked in with different groups. And, it's a little bit of, I like to go by this, go slow to go fast. You got to really be a little bit more methodical up front at times. And that pace can get faster as you become more accustomed to it. But again, when you're talking about, as you described, that sort of, typical AV person, they haven't yet maybe had those experiences. And so how can I help them get to that more bigger awareness of things? How do we help them, as the person providing a solution, anticipate questions and answers that the customer may not even known to ask yet? That's that power of the consultative role and the trust building that comes out of it, which I think then goes beyond, like, we're providing a solution for project A, when really we're becoming the trusted partner that at least asks for insight on all that's happening as they go forward.
Definitely. And I think also part of the reason some of us are able to do that is because we have teacher backgrounds.
Yeah.
You have to be ready for any question that student is going to throw at you. So you think about all of that, and you're able to figure out how to answer the question quickly, get them all on the same line. I think that's like a power teachers. That's that superhero power
Oh my God.
being an educator has, right? But the other thing too is, with the AV industry, we are going to IT, right? IT has been IT for so long. So many of the products now that are on the market are going onto the network. We need to involve IT. And I think a lot of us in the AV industry are afraid to say to our customers, have you engaged with your IT department? Because everybody's going to say, which I'm sure you've experienced it, as soon as you tell IT you want to put 15 gaming computers on their network, they're going to be like, no.
Yeah.
And you have to explain why they need to at least consider.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And that's, but again, I think of a couple sides to that. One is, if I'm working with a customer and have they talked with IT and there's hesitation, or the AV rep is reluctant because that might slow things down, what they have to understand is it feels like it might be slowing it down, but it's really building a more stable infrastructure to make it go quicker later. It's the last thing you want to do is assume that you've gone down. I think we've both probably had an experience where we were in the 11th hour of a deal being done, and it gets hard stopped and maybe killed because IT is just now finding out about it, and they're saying no thank you. So let's involve them early. And an example, again, when I was with Tacoma, the experiences by including IT and what we were doing, they got excited and wanted to find solutions that worked safely within the confines of what they needed to be. And then they were also became my resident experts when other districts came calling, and their IT was nervous. Their network team was nervous. I said, well, we've done it. Talk to my network guy. Don't listen to me. You two speak the same language. Go talk to them. So helping to take those real world examples, the proof, and connect those people is powerful. And so don't shy away from it. Get ahead of it early so that it can streamline. And a lot of times what you find is you discover new ways of doing it. And so now you take the idea of that and go to the next customer and say, here's how we're innovating. Here's how we can do it better. Now you've just built even more trust and confidence with that next customer.
All of that are powers and understanding that not everybody has, right? And so I think from your standpoint, you've got so much that you can offer any type of company. And like I said, I'm not trying to pigeonhole you at all into esports, but I don't think the esports train is slowing down anytime soon. There are so many schools, whether it is a district or whether it's a university. I know a lot of times it's in high school, but we need, in my opinion, we've got to start them young, right?
Yeah.
Like just like anything, get middle school, then go into elementary. I know the little elementary kids are going to be a little bit different, but you never know.
Yeah.
Some of them might be, really great at Mario Kart, which I'm not. So Jake, thank you for joining me and talking today. And so let everybody know where they can find you, how they can reach out to you, if they've got questions, if they want to bring you on as a consultant, whatever. Where can we find you?
Yeah, I would say the easiest place to find me is going to be on LinkedIn, just at Jake Voss. And I think it might be actually Jake Voss 74. Might be the official version of Jake that you'll find out there. But yeah, that's going to be the best way. My email, if someone to want it directly, is jakevoss74@gmail. So yeah, by all means, I would love to have a follow-up conversation, explore ideas. I'm very much open to, contract consultant type work. If somebody isn't, if there's someone out there isn't necessarily ready or able to bring someone on as a full-time employee, I have some flexibility around how that might look. So I'd love the opportunity, to travel, to be involved. The fact that I've, my most recent role was at the cabinet level from a school district. I understand how to be thinking and what they're concerned about when we're thinking that bigger strategic vision. Love higher ed as well. So yeah. Thank you for giving me time to, to share.
Oh, yes. And I can tell you, in working with Jake, he's amazing. We, even though it's been several years that we've worked together, he is amazing. He's always been helpful and supportive, whether, whatever we were doing, me being in Florida and him being all across the country. He's always been helpful and supportive, and he's an amazing person. So thank you. I hope this helps you. And remember, everybody, this is why we do this. This is why we talk to people, because we are more than words on a resume. Thanks, everybody, and stay tuned and make sure to check out all of my friends at AVNation Media.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.